So do you currently, or did you have the low ball anxiety, right? What I mean by that is when you're about to make an offer, you're comping, the person's asking for 200,000 and you look and you're like, oh my gosh, I need this to be at 80,000 in order for it to make sense. Do you have, or did you have when you started, that anxiety of going, man, how is this person, how is this seller going to take my lowball offer? And perhaps it stopped you from making an offer on the spot. Or perhaps you made that offer, but you weren't confident about it. You didn't sound confident about it, and you ended up losing the deal or never ended up getting it signed. So I just want to see anyone that's watching here, if you guys are listening, and if you can, if you're not driving, if you can type something in on the comments here, I'd love for you to just drop a 1 if you still have that low ball anxiety, and then a 2 if you used to have it but you don't have it anymore. So let's take a look at that. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because I've talked to a few people that I'm helping, mentoring, and that's one of the things that usually comes up. It's like, dude, like, how is this seller going to take my offer? It's half of what they're asking for, right? And so the reason why I'm bringing this up is because there's a good and easy way to get rid of that anxiety in case you're still having it. When the seller says that when you say, hey, how much are you looking to get for it? And they say 200,000, my question to you guys is, how real is that number? Right? What I mean by that is that really what the seller wants? Is that really what the seller is looking for? Or is that a number that he or she just threw out there? Okay. So one thing that I wanted to point out here is that the majority of the people that you talk to are not investors. They are Joe Schmo looking to sell their house. And on average, a lot of times people only sell their house once, maybe twice in their lifetime, right? So put yourself in their shoes. If you're that person before you got into the real estate game, how much did you know about real estate? And if you were to sell your house, what's the first thing that you're going to do, right? So I want you to just imagine this for a second. You're not in the real estate game. You're looking to sell your house because it's like this guy, he just had his heart surgery. He was going to fix himself, but now he can't physically do it. And he doesn't want to take the time. He'd rather just cash out. What's the first thing that you're going to do? Right? So, first thing that people do is they'll look at their tax assessor, right? They just want to see what's the assessed value of their house. Okay. So, let's assume for a second that on their tax assessed document, it says that it's assessed at 135. Let's just say that for a second, okay? It's assessed at 135. And then the second thing they do is they look at Zillow. Then they look at Realtor.com, Redfin, whatever it is. And then now they're looking at Zillow and it says this estimate says 185, right? So now they're going, oh, okay, so my tax assessed value is 135. Zillow says my house is worth 185. Okay. And I just got this heart surgery. I don't owe anything in this house. Man, I would be really happy with $100,000 in my pocket right now. If I have $100,000 in my pocket, I get to relax. I get to go to do my therapies and not have to worry about my medical bills or any bills at all for that matter. $100,000 in my pocket, I will be happy with. Okay. You guys still with me? Hopefully you guys are imagining this, picturing this in your head, right? So you're happy with $100,000 in your pocket. Your tax assessed value says 135. Zillow says your house is worth 185. So when you get a phone call from Caesar, from Hyro, from Victor, from whoever it is, asking if you're looking to sell your house, are you going to tell me that you want $100,000 for it after you've done the research, right? The little research that you have done? Most of these people don't know how to comp, right? They're not going to look or take the time to see, hey, which houses near me that are the same build practically the same year built, same bad bath count, same square footage, right? Making sure that there's no pool if they don't have a pool. They don't comp like we do because they don't know how, right? And so back to my question, if you have that, if Zillow says it's 185, taxes value says 135, and I call you, are you going to tell me that you want your house or you want $100,000 for your house? No, you're probably going to tell me you want 185, or if you want to give yourself a little bit of cushion, you're probably going to say you want 200,000, right? So the reason why I'm bringing this up is when you have that low ball anxiety where you're like, man, I need this to be at 80, and they're telling you they're at 200, guys, a lot of times that first number they give you, it's what I call a fuck off number, right? It's an F off number. So in your mind, you have the anxiety because you have $120,000 gap that you have to overcome. But in reality, he's happy at $100,000. So you really just have a $20,000 gap. You don't have this much. You only have this much. Okay. So for me, guys, once I realized that that first number is not really the number that they're looking for. Now I'm talking about people with motivation, right? Either because they have a distressed property or they're in a distressed situation. People that are highly motivated, okay? A lot of them are still in the wrong price mode because they've done that little research and they think their house is worth 185, so they tell you they want 200. So then when you ask them, hey, if I can do this for you, if I can close on this by the end of the month, all cash, I'll buy it as is, and I'll pay all the closing costs, no realtor fees. What's the best that you can do? That guy's going to think back, oh, my Zillow estimate says 185. I was at 200. I'm going to make Caesar feel like he's winning. So I'm going to tell him I want 185 for it. They just drop from 200 to 185. Okay. Now at that point, that's when the education starts, right? So now you start educating and you say, hey, John, I'm looking at the properties in the area, and for a newly remodeled house down the street from you sold for 175. Same square footage, bed, bath, blah, 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 blah. Right. So now you start educating, and then now you let them know, hey, I need to be like at 75 for this, like in the low 70s in order for it to make sense because of blah, 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 right? XYZ, whatever it may be. So then at that point, he's like, oh, okay, well, yes, 185 is not the right number. So then you ask, well, what's a number in between 75 and 185 that would put a smile on your face? If the person is highly motivated, now they've realized, okay, Zestimate, I couldn't look at, I know I'm at 135, at least the tax assessed value. So now I'm going to say 135. Now that gets me closer to 100. So when you ask, what's a number in between the two that will put a smile on your face? Now they're going to come down to 135. Now, guys, now you're from 75 to 135. You only have a what? You only have a $60,000 gap there, not 120. Okay. And so then at that point, that's when you get closer to your number, right? And then he's going to go, dude, $100,000, I would be ecstatic with. All right, great. Let's do it. Let's do it 100,000. Yeah. So assuming that the numbers make sense of that. Now let's assume for a second the numbers make sense at 95, at 93. Guys, if it's that much of a small difference, okay, and a lot of gurus probably don't want to say this, guys, lock it up, right? Lock it up because you have very small cushion there, right? I always say, and I believe I posted a video about this, and if I haven't, it's going to come up in the next couple of days or even a short video. Don't lowball so low that you get kicked out of the kitchen, right? So if he's at 100, you need to be at 95. Then you're like, okay, great. Hey, you know what? Here's really where I need it to be, but that's close enough. So let's go ahead and send the agreement over at 100, okay? And then the next 14 days, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send my contractors out there, my local investors, right, or my local partners, and my inspectors. I just want to make sure that I can get multiple bids on this house so I can get the rehab cost low enough. And then also, if we show up and there's a leak on the roof or the foundation is cracked, if it's a big ticket item, then obviously I'm going to have to come back and renegotiate either on price or time. If everything he says makes sense or confirms, and I'm able to get my rehab costs low enough, let's do 100. Guys, get it on the contract because you guys always come back and go for a price drop if need be, right? Now, at that point, that person's highly motivated. Is he really going to walk away from $95,000 over a $5,000 difference? Just think about that for a second, you know? So it's really important to have that mindset, guys, that the first number, okay, it's not really the real number. It's more an F off number. So instead of you having the low ball anxiety, don't even worry about it, right? Just go through the process, ask what's the best they can do based on speed and convenience, educate, and once you educate, then you drop what I call my closing line, which is if your number is too high for me and my number is too low for you, what's a number in between that would put a smile on your face and achieve your goal? Once you do that, then you kind of go back and forth on the him and huh, and then you lock it up.